I'm a big fan of wardrobe analysis as it gives us so many insights about what we're wearing and potentially also why we're wearing it and how we're wearing it too. And at the end of every season, I always do a little bit of a review of what it was that was my most worn, the things I reach for on repeat, and I like to reflect on why that is. So today we're going to be chatting through my summer most worn. Perfect for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, but if you're in the Southern Hemisphere like me, I have done a full rundown of my autumn most worn on Substack, which I will link below. So we're going to dive right in. And I thought we could start off with accessories because these are some of the things that are exciting me the most, beginning with my most worn handbag. I was not at all surprised to find that this bag from Quince ended up being one of my most worn. And I have to say, I actually think this is possibly one of my best purchases of the last 12 months. I'd been coveting a Loewe puzzle bag for the longest time, but after seeing how they actually wear and tear over an extended period, I realized the bag just was not for me. But I loved the concept and the silhouette, so when I saw this one from Quince, I immediately jumped on it. I don't think I've added anything to cart so fast, and I have to say it's held up incredibly well. I've worn this so much, I've not babied it. I love that it's got little feet on the bottom. It actually has a magnetic closure, so that helps to keep the bag shut, but it also means that it's reasonably easy to get in and out of. You also have that removable strap, and it does have the little pocket at the back too. A really good size for everyday essentials. The leather quality is stunning. This is my favorite leather that Quince does. And if you do want to see more of my other favorite Quince bags, I'll link a review that I did up in the cards. But this bag is phenomenal, and it really speaks to my desire to use bags that are really practical, but also have an element of style to it that I personally appreciate from a visual standpoint. The other bag that ended up being my most worn is the bucket tote from Madewell, which I have sung the praises of this bag for months and months, possibly the last year. I love the little adjustable strap. You can wear it cross-body, it fits a laptop, and I really like how the leather softens up beautifully over time. It's stunning, and it comes in so many different colors too. I want to highlight jewelry next, and in particular the types of silhouettes and shapes I was gravitating towards in the summertime, as I feel like they're the real unsung hero of our wardrobe. And this part of the video does include a paid integration with Linjer, who you'll know I love. I've been wearing their jewelry for so many years. I like that they use really high quality materials. They use recycled silver, recycled gold, which I also appreciate because there's a real intent on where they are sourcing their materials from, and that quality is reflected also in their gold vermeil pieces, which are sterling silver base with 22 karat gold plating that is incredibly thick. It's 2.5 to 3 microns thick. I wanted to highlight earrings in particular, as I noticed a real trend, not just over the summer, but continuing through autumn and also now into winter here in Australia, is that I'm really drawn to a little bit more of a minimal dainty earring, something that feels incredibly low maintenance and often just something I can leave in my ears and go about my day. Maybe it's weeks before I actually consider changing them. I think this is why I'm so drawn to Linjer's solid gold pieces. They're 14 karat gold, so it has this really nice creamy hue, which I find suits both cool and warm toned complexions, but they're so fuss free. They're low maintenance. You don't need to take them out when you're showering, when you're at the gym, when you're in the pool, none of that. You can just leave them in and kind of go about your day, which is great, especially if you're a busy mum with young kids and jewelry sometimes feels like a little bit of an afterthought. I have some new in styles from Linjer that I kind of wanted to highlight, and I think you can see just how gorgeous these are. I especially love the Pave diamond Huggies. These are great because they add this little bit of sparkle around the face, and I always love when their diamonds catch the light. They use lab-grown diamonds, which is wonderful because they are conflict-free, but in every single way, the same as a mined diamond. For a little bit of fun, the Croissant earrings are super cute. These are in a gold vermeil, and they add a lot of texture around the face while still being quite dainty. And I also really love these chunky Huggie hoop earrings. These are again in the gold vermeil, and they just have a little bit more volume on the ear. And this is a great way to play around with proportions when you're wearing earrings. I also noticed the same trend with necklaces. So I'm currently wearing one of their 14 karat gold necklaces. It's the box chain necklace with 2 of the Birthstone charms on it. A great little way to have my kids with me always. But one of the pieces I really love, which is a new one, is their Clara Shimmer chain necklace. This has a twisted effect to it, and it really just catches the light so brilliantly. I think this is such a special piece, again in that 14 karat gold. And I was also really drawn to their new Birthstone rings, which have pear-shaped gems with little lab-grown diamonds between each one. So pretty. I will link all the pieces I mentioned down in the description box below. Linjer are currently running their summer sale, so it's a really good opportunity to add something to cart if you have been wanting to treat yourself to something special. And make sure you use my code, which will be on screen and in the description box below, so that you can receive a special offer at checkout. Thank you so much to Linjer for working with me. I just always love wearing your jewelry. Okay, so we're going to dive into some clothing pieces now, and you'll see at the very front of my rack we have a really bright colored shirt. So for my most worn tops, there are actually 3 which kind of tied, and I thought we'd start with the most vibrant of the bunch. I think this is probably the brightest piece I've ever included in one of my most worn roundups. And I love this because what it says to me is I'm seeking a bit of vibrancy. I'm looking to bring some real contrast into my outfits in a way that is not with just black and white clothing. And that's a really simple thing to do, but I feel like with color, it can be a great way to kind of bring more personality into your outfit. And I really love this oversized shirt. So yes, it's really bold and loud, but the fit of it doesn't feel very serious at all. It actually feels quite casual. It's got a lot of ease to it. I do have some very specific ways that I tend to style an oversized shirt. So you need to roll up the sleeves. I usually just do up a couple of the buttons, and I like to leave it loose. You can do a little bit of a side tuck if you want to highlight the waist a bit more, though I don't really find that necessary. I quite like wearing things like this with something that's a bit slimmer on my lower half, or at least a trouser that reveals a little bit of the ankle so that I can bring that slim balance back into the equation. This one is from an Australian brand, but I am going to link one from Quince, which is under $50, and if you size up a couple sizes, you basically get the same look. And something I found interesting was I found myself desiring slightly slimmer silhouettes, which feels quite fresh, especially considering how much I've leaned on more relaxed clothing over the past couple of years. So I've been loving this little ribbed tee from Henny. This is an Australian brand, which honestly their basics are incredibly well made, and it wasn't until I went in store and actually got to experience the clothing in real life that I kind of realized these weren't just any basics, they were actually really good ones. And what I like about this tee in particular is it has this ruche detailing across the waist. So it's a basic, but it feels like there's something a bit more design-led to it. I tend to wear this with a trouser or a pair of shorts or a skirt that has a lot more volume to it to kind of bring that balance. So having something slim with something that is a little bit more oversized. But this washes and wears incredibly well. I've been really impressed because I thought it was going to be quite delicate. And I also love that it's got a bit of a ribbed texture to it too. My final most worn top is the most basic of the bunch. It is this boat neck tank from Grana. And again, I tend to wear this with a bit more of a fluid trouser. And that's actually something I want to talk about next, is what I was wearing on my lower half. But this has just been a brilliant basic to have, 100% Supima cotton. And side note, I have noticed that Grana have changed their pricing recently, so everything is much more lower price than it originally was when the brand launched. So it feels like they've done a really big rebrand, and I love the accessible pricing, so a really good option if you are kind of on the hunt for basics that aren't going to break the bank. Again, this washes up so well, and I love that it's got this little seam detail down the back. Very subtle, and one of those details you only notice when it's your item hanging in your wardrobe. What is most fascinating to me as I reflect on my evolution of style over the past sort of decade, almost 2 decades, is that I've really shifted away from quite feminine styling and opted to wear a lot more trousers. In the past, I almost exclusively wore dresses and skirts, so this feels like quite an about face. I did have a very specific style of trouser I wore a lot, and it had to be natural fibers. They're both from Dish actually, and I don't think either of these two are still available, but they do this silhouette in so many different colors and fabrications. So it's essentially an elasticated waist trouser with a really thin waistband, and that is the key detail here because it feels a lot more refined than something that has a really thick waistband that can be quite hard to disguise or conceal. These have a really relaxed fit, and actually this pair here is in a silk cotton blend, and it is probably one of my favorite fabrications to wear because it is so light and breezy. They're also fully lined as well. I just think this is probably one of the best value pieces that I think I have ever bought from the brand. And they feel kind of quite cool. They've got a lot of ease to them, but you can easily dress them up or down depending on the styling. And I'm hoping all of the outfit ideas I've been throwing on screen are giving you a little bit of inspiration for the season, giving you some ideas of how you could maybe style things that you already have in your existing wardrobe. So the other pair that I have, and I actually do have the matching shirt for this, which I quite like that combo. It's quite oversized, similar to the red shirt I shared, is this cocoa brown pair. These are in cotton, so they've actually got a slightly different silhouette and they hang differently on the body to the black pair. They're a lot stiffer, more rigid, and really hold their shape. And I think in some ways that kind of speaks to the mood of how we are dressing and using fabrics as a way to convey that. Really comfortable, and because it's a natural fiber piece, breathable for our Australian summers, which if you've ever been here, you'll know they can get over 40 degrees. Okay, so in contrast, the most worn dress I think will feel like it's coming out of left field because it's made from nylon. It is this cutout dress from Tove. I absolutely adore the brown shade. I think brown is probably my favorite neutral at this point. It's a really good alternative to wearing black, especially if you find that too high contrast, and navy also doesn't really work for you. Try chocolate brown, as has a really nice rich warmth to it. What's interesting to me about this is that 5 years ago, I never would have worn a dress with cutouts. I was basically an AU size 6 and I would have shied away from this sort of thing, despite the fact that I'm sure it would have looked phenomenal on. And these days I'm a lot more comfortable in my body and in my skin, and I just really love how this reveals a little bit of skin, but it doesn't feel scandalous or overtly vulgar or sexy. It kind of just feels a little bit fun and playful. It does have a little belt as well, which you can add, but that doesn't really have any proper function, at least that I can tell. I'm sure in one of Tibby's style classes, they've probably spoken to something like that, but I haven't really found that it does much in practice, unless maybe I wanted to throw a sweater over the top and cinch it at the waist. But I have really fallen in love with Tibby's nylon pieces because of how easy they are to care for. Yes, they're really expensive, though not quite so much if you manage to get them on sale, but being so carefree, I am less precious with them, and to me, that makes it worth it if I want to spend a little bit more on something special for me, something nice for me to wear. Obviously, there are going to be way more affordable options. H&M actually do some great nylon pieces, definitely worth keeping an eye out. I have purchased one before. It's a lot thinner and kind of has a different sort of tactile quality to it, but that's always a good, more affordable route to go down. We're going to break things up with an accessory and my most worn shoes, which happen to be two very simple pairs of sandals, both from Madewell. Their shoes are really good, by the way. I always end up checking them out and falling in love with a lot of their shoes. Really comfortable, and I find generally quite suitable for wide feet. I think it was these that were my most worn between the two I'm going to show you, but they're a really kind of rich yellow python print T-bar sandal. And I like that these don't have a strap around the ankle, so they're not visually cutting me off. They have a bit of padding in the insole, which made them really comfortable to wear. And they were just a really easy one to throw on. Because they had this bit of texture, but the color kind of deemed them more of a neutral, they worked so effortlessly to combine with all of my outfits, regardless of where I was wearing color, like that red shirt, or opting for an all black or all white outfit. So really chuffed with these, and I hope they bring this exact style back for next year, though I do think they've got a similar style on the website. I'll link the appropriate alternative below and anything I see online that kind of looks like these. Then we have the leather flip-flop, which I'm sorry, but do we not just associate this with an Australian summer? Havaianas being kind of the more easy breezy beach option. I like these as a slightly more refined take because they felt like they paired more easily and more effortlessly with an outfit. And in particular, when I'm wearing those really long fluid trousers, this sort of helps to balance things out and not make the outfit feel too heavy on the foot. These are super comfortable. I did go up a half size. I do tend to do that with shoes that are backless just to ensure that I'm not hanging off the back. I don't think anybody wants that. I'd rather them be a touch too big than a touch too small. But beautiful quality. They've held up really well. I don't know if they have this exact pair, but I will link some alternatives that have this vibe. Emery is an Australian brand and they do a really similar style. I think if I was to lose these, I buy the Emery ones as I really like the cut of the strap, or alternatively, Everlane have a really chic pair which kind of feel a little bit old worldly, but these have been great. I mean, can't go wrong. You need to have a great sandal in the summertime. For the past maybe 4 or 5 years, my most worn shorts of the summer have consistently been the A-line denim shorts from Everlane. And I feel like I've finally broken that streak, but I do love those shorts and I still stand by them. I'm still wearing them. They're so flattering. But this year I ended up wearing this kind of white denim pair from Jag a lot. And I think what I found with this is that I didn't want to be so precious and only reach for darker denim even with my kids. I thought, you know what, if my clothing gets dirty, that's fine. I know how to care for it. I know how to get the stains out. I'm definitely trying to live by my mantra of just wear the clothes. And I like the fact that this also has this contrast stitching. It says tobacco color and it's probably not going to be that visible from far away, but up close, I think it's just a really nice detail. Also, the thing for me with denim shorts is they can't be too short. They have to have a bit of coverage on the leg and also not be too tight around the thigh. I think that is the most flattering and also the most comfortable, especially when you're wearing denim. And being kind of a white denim, they wear with everything. I especially loved these shorts styled with that red shirt that I mentioned earlier. Now this is a bit of a funny one, but I'm going to end this with my most worn jacket. And this really took me by surprise. We wouldn't really need a jacket in an Australian summer because of how hot it gets, but it was incredibly mild this year and we actually had a lot of rain. So I found myself reaching for my Cezanne Clyde trench on the days when I did need something to add that bit of warmth and also a little bit of protection over the body if it was raining or just drizzling a little bit. I really, really love this trench. I think it is so stunning. The quality of it has really held up and this has been something that I've reached for without fail with a lot of consistency. I love the check lining. I think that that just feels like this very styled element. It kind of takes this from being a basic MAC trench and really lifts it and elevates it. Details like this really matter, especially if you're someone who does kind of seek out this beauty in the clothing that they're adding to their wardrobes. I sized up to an AU10, which is a US 6, and I definitely don't think I needed to, but it is always nice to have a little bit more room. I often size up in my jackets, but I do want to mention I'm 5'8" or 172 centimeters tall. So for petites, you may actually like to size down because the more fabric that you have around your body, it will end up swallowing you, end up enveloping you, maybe a little bit too much, maybe more so than you want, but really, really beautiful trench coat. If you're in Australia or New Zealand and you want an affordable alternative to the Cezanne trench, I did find one and I'm going to link it below. It is under $150. I can't speak to the quality, but it does look like a really nice alternative and I love the length. I think it just adds a little bit more drama. So those were my most worn pieces of the summer. I hope that you found this video helpful, that it was just interesting hearing me natter on about my closet, the pieces that I gravitated towards, and just the general insights that I gleaned from reflecting on what I was wearing on repeat. This is all backed by data. I use Index, by the way, to track what I'm wearing on a daily basis. I also hope that this gave you a heavy dose of outfit inspiration. A huge thank you to Linjer for working with me on this video. Don't forget their summer sale is on and you can use my code on screen and in the description box below to receive a special offer when you check out. Thank you so much for spending some of your day with me. I'm always really grateful. I hope you're having the best week and I will see you on Monday with a new one. See you soon. Bye.